Alright guys, such comic again. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. What a start to Black Ops 7 for OpTic Texas. A week or so into the game's life cycle, they've already won the first $75,000 invitational of the season in pretty dramatic fashion at that. Undefeated in map count going into the grand finals, but in the grand finals, Gentlemates certainly put up a fight in controversial fashion. Glitch spots, smoke glitches, it was all going on. Questionable activities, but OpTic come out on top regardless. Lots of storyline today. Very much enjoy your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. We've got a lot to get into. We're going to start here. Champs ring ceremony will be at Major 1. It's kind of funny that they're running it back again. Of course, they did it at, what was it, Major 2 last year in Dallas. OpTic did the ring ceremony. They presented their players with the championship rings. It looks like this year it probably will be the same team that gets presented with the rings that actually playing at the event. We know that last year, obviously, Kenny came along, but they'd made the roster changes going into that event and things were changing direction. This year, based on the early form of this OpTic team again, that looks rather doubtful to be happening again in a couple of months' time. So that's going on. We know that for sure. We're just going to dive straight into this tournament because it was fantastic to see this. Twitch, YouTube, everyone was streaming it. The CDL had a stream. Everyone was watch partying it. Very well supported. This is what COD's all about, baby. You know, they need to be running these all the time. Honestly, it would be such good content, especially when the season's just come out. It's always been a frustration for me that they've not done these big invitational tournaments exactly how they've done this year for the last like 5 years. It's such a no-brainer. This year they've finally done it, and well, hopefully they felt like it was well received. And when OpTic win, the viewership's certainly going to be there. Now, talk about overload. It is very interesting, and I still don't really understand why they thought this is a great idea. I think Overload can be better than Control. There's also a good argument. I think that the maps we have in this game are better than we've had the last few years. They're more structured, they're 3-lane. I think it's a better map pool than we've had in the last few seasons of the CDL. So would Control play better on these maps than it has done over the last few years that has created frustration? Probably yes. But do I think that it's time to change it up and Overload might be a way to go? Yeah, I also do think so. I do believe, though, that you should have to win the game by actually capturing the device. The fact that it goes to a search and destroy round makes really no sense because there's no indication in Overload that that will be the case. And as JoeDeceives says, well, if I'm holding the ball, the device, the EMP, whatever, then I'm actually at a disadvantage in the search and destroy rounds because they know where I'm at. So I think that there are some tweaks that need to be made to that game mode. Again, it's why you've got to take this tournament with a bit of a pinch of salt. It's very early days. We've got glitch spots being pulled out left, right, rhubarb in the grand finals anyway. We've got Overload isn't probably where it's going to be in the near future. The meta obviously is going to change. It's very early days. But as I said yesterday, is this tournament a good indication of where the teams currently are? Absolutely it is. And it's very true that Shotzzy and Huke from an SMG duo perspective, they are the guys to beat as it stands. So yesterday was very interesting because, as I said, I thought that, you know, Toronto, FaZe, Gentlemate, OpTic, especially after Thieves got eliminated, that looked like what was potentially going to end up as your top 4 teams. That is not what happened. In fact, 2 of the teams that were theoretically down the bottom of the power rankings actually had really good tournaments. Cloud9 and G2 are those 2 respective teams. So very interesting to look at this. Afro had a great series here. I've rated Afro highly. I think that he should have been in the league last year. To be honest, it never happened. This year is also a game that should suit him very well. He was phenomenal when he first came into the league. Couple of difficult years, was out of the league. Now he's back in. So hopefully he has a great year. And yeah, the rest of his team, Mac had a 0.7 here, but you know, they did win the map in a game 5 round 11 against Toronto Ultra, Toronto Koi as they are now known. So, you know, good series here. Absolutely. I mean, game 5 round 11, never complain about that. Toronto, I still think they're going to be a good team as well. And look, these early tournaments, there will always be a team that you maybe didn't expect to be that good that is better than expected early on. Is that now, maybe that's G2, we'll see in a second. Can they maintain that? Will that continue over time? That's maybe more doubtful. You know, it's always how it goes. There's always at least one top team, theoretical top team you expect to be good that bombs out, and there's always at least a couple or 1 or 2 teams that you're not expecting to be so good that actually have clicked very early on and understand the game well. And the answer to that question right now is probably G2, because G2 played FaZe. And I mean, look, this was sensational. Now, of course, this wasn't FaZe, that was FaZe. They've got the names wrong, whatever. It's early days in the Codcaster. But Crimp dropped 53, and that was straight kills, right? This isn't eliminations. That's 53 pure kills on Colossus. And well, I nearly called them the FaZe team because that's what they're under, but the G2 team looking really good. Estriel had his moments. Skies was really good, I thought, this weekend. He had like a 1.27 KD to finish out the tournament, Skies. Mamba impressed me a lot in Search and Destroy. And Crimp, I thought, was excellent. I mean, last year he wasn't so excellent, but the year before he was good on Thieves. You know, when that team was formed, this G2 team, I said it's a very G2 team to form, and it is, right? Like it's exactly the type of team that I would expect Looney and the guys at G2 and Minnesota, Rokkr to put together. Now, it's a team that I'm still not convinced in the long term where they're going to be. But right now, they've really clicked, and it's great to see Skies performing well. You know, I do rate the individual talent on that roster. It just felt like one of these kind of weird team compositions where you're not really sure if, well, that the names of the players make sense, whether it's really going to work as an actual quartet. But early doors, it seems like it is. It went to a map 5. Abuzah was hitting some snipes. We'll talk a little bit more about the sniper later on today. But in the end, it was Minnesota who got the job done. It was a 6-1 on the final map on the raid. As I say, that Colossus 250, 245, absolute bang out. Crimp drops 53. I mean, that's a record that is going to be tough to beat, I think, even this season. Again, this is an online tournament. There is some talk about how much this counts. Again, we'll discuss that a little bit more later on today. But map 3 on the Scar, that was the Overload. It was actually Scar, 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 the first 3 maps of this series. It was also the Hardpoint that went the way. And, you know, Simp had really rough maps here in the Hardpoint both times, which I thought was a little bit surprising. These were the overall numbers. Crimp had a 1.33, 124 kills, largely helped by what's happened in that Colossus, or Crimp losses as some people are calling that map right now. Skies didn't have his best series here, but he did have some great highlights elsewhere in the tournament. So worth noting that Thieves, they bombed out on the first day, as did Falcons. FaZe only made it, what, top 6? So yeah, it's not a great look. Here we've got the Celly dragon or whatever, dragon head thing. So yeah, not ideal, right? Simp, aBeZy and Cell, their first tournament back, not an ideal weekend either. This though was one of Skies' big highlights. He actually already hit a snipe to start off this round. Then he finds himself in a 1 versus 2 against Cloud9. Couple of shots into Afro. If he ever comes back to support, Afro goes this way, and then just quick scopes Vivid with the headshot. So disgusting clutch. Skies was doing a lot of that this weekend, and Formal was absolutely loving it. So he was watch partying this. This was actually the first kill. We didn't see it from Skies' POV, but yeah, it was, who was it? Beans who goes for the peek here and just gets picked. Skies goes on to win the next couple of gunfights. Very impressive stuff. And at the end of the series, it was G2 getting the job done. So they win this one in 4. They advance on to the losers finals, where they would go on to play Gentlemates, because Gentlemates had just lost to OpTic in the upper finals. Skies had a 1.36 that series. So, you know, impressive early days to see where these teams are currently looking. Then OpTic, though, continued their reign of terror, really. I think in terms of pace, they are just a level above, right? Like, in this game, it's pretty clear that the teams that are quick, they are really tough to beat. And it's one of the reasons why I thought the Cloud9, you know, a G2 like impressed me beyond my expectations. But looking at the teams, let's say Ravens and like Surge and G2 and Cloud9 and even like ReeaL and Falcons and like a Boston, of those teams, Cloud9 are quick, right? And to be fair, G2 played fast as well. But Cloud9, Afro, Beans, Mac, and Vivid, that is a fast-paced team. That is a damage-dealing team. So, you know, I think that it's probably expected that early they might be a little bit better. Again, it's all about trajectory, right? Like, are Thieves going to get better with time? Yes. Are FaZe, I think, going to get better with time? Probably yes. What about Gentlemates? Well, we'll discuss that here in a second. But OpTic, look, they were always going to be very early, probably the team to beat. They've got the chemistry from the last game. It's a relatively similar game. There are loads of reasons why they should be discussing on this title. And, well, that's absolutely the case. I think it's a great story as well. The fact that they were streaming this event and there were some players that weren't because, oh, I don't want to show my POV or whatever. Then it's like, well, yeah, well, these guys just dominated the tournament and won all the money while clouding all the rest of you guys, basically. So this was Shotzzy's POV here on Den. We then had the nuke calling game as well. This is actually, I think, the map 1 of that series. Wow, it's fun to watch these guys play cards. I mean, yeah, watching OpTic as a quartet, pick up where they left off in terms of teamwork and pace. And yeah, it's a scary team. It's a seriously scary team. And with Mercules as well, I mean, look, we talk about Huke and Shotzzy a lot, and Dashy a lot, given the aim assist and all this, but Mercules has really like kept on going. This was actually the Simp perspective of that gunfight that we just saw from Shotzzy. The first series ends 3-0. The den was relatively competitive, right? But again, Mercules went 36-21. So he obviously was talked about yesterday, but with Huke and Shotzzy having such a good tournament, Mercules and even Dashy were flying a little bit under the radar, I think, but their search and destroy was also just unbelievable. They lost barely any search rounds. At least the grand finals was competitive. I think the key thing to take away from this is I saw some reaction after that OpTic hadn't even lost a map going into the grand finals of like, oh my god, the season's over, OpTic are gonna win literally everything. Like, are they currently the favorites to win the three-peat this year and do it again? Like, yeah. But as it stands, but we're in for a very competitive year, right? Like, don't think that this season is somehow like over already and OpTic are going to dominate everything. Like, you know, it's a very competitive esport right now. We've got some top quality players on top quality teams. I think we're in for a great year. And I think the grand final showed that despite the controversy. So Gentlemates, okay, they were playing as August, but I think it's maybe 2 days time. They're maybe I think it's the 26th maybe. They're set to announce their roster in the keynote the Gentlemates are doing, and probably the transition in terms of ownership of the region maybe. We'll see about that. This one goes 5. Gentlemates get the job done in the end. They move on to the grand finals. And well, this was the highlight of the tournament and certainly of the year so far. So here we are on Den Hardpoint. Shotzzy gets 1, gets 2, slides into position on the right-hand side of this doorway, picks up the 3rd kill, and then Envoy comes in for the trade, jumps over the window, and then hits him from the back. I mean, wow. This was phenomenal, because basically like a ninja, right? This is a ninja from Halo, where you jump over the guy, and then you punch him in the back. And that's pretty much what Shotzzy did here, to jump over the top of Dylan Envoy as he comes out for the trade, and then assassinate him. Like, wow, what a game, right? Like, we're going to see some entertaining stuff this year. Again, we saw some key moments. Mercules had I mean, we've not seen too many Mercules highlights in this video, but just, he might be the best player in the game. He really might be, and it's pretty scary, I think, for the opposition, for sure, what Mercules is currently up to. But they get the job done. This, though, was the key drama in the grand finals, because Gentlemates were putting out all the stops. Now, we talked about this on, like, day 2 of the game, but there are plenty of spots in this game that are questionable whether they should be allowed or not. There's certain jump spots. Is that an unintended line of sight and all this? Now, what's interesting is that this spot, I don't know, I feel like it's incredibly clear that this is a glitch spot that shouldn't be allowed. So this is Neptune, and this has been known now for a few days. Now, again, this is a tournament where there's no real rules about this type of stuff, so it's very early, it's very just kind of do what you want in a way. But Neptune has slid himself here into this rock. He can see through the rock, and he can't, I don't think, shoot through it. But Dashy cannot see him at all. He's totally invisible here. So, you know, if you want to talk about unintended line of sight, it doesn't get much worse than that, right? Like, I mean, it's a very clear glitch, right? There really is no other way to look at it. And it's fascinating because you remember when Ghosty was having a go at Neptune at the World Cup for stair glitching, as he thought, and using some of these cheese ideas. Well, now they're teaming together, and this is what we had. So Neptune pulled this out. It wasn't just one time he pulled this out. He used this a number of rounds, and it was causing a lot of controversy. I mean, this is happening again right on the final round here. OpTic eventually went on to win this map. Now, Envoy was, I mean, there was also some stair glitching going on. Envoy was dropping the smokes and using them for one-ways. So it was interesting to see a lot of the reaction here, because there were lots of reactions to say, you know, lost all respect for these players and all this. And I don't know, take it as you will, but it was certainly dramatic, and it does go to a final map of the series in the end. This was probably one of the more critical rounds because it was tied up 2-2. Huke found himself in a 1v3. He loves clutching from this spot. I saw him clutch a 1v3 from this the other day. He gets the first couple of kills, hits the ramp, guns the final man as well, picks up the 1v3, and OpTic went on to win the series and become your launch invitational champion. So yeah, very competitive affair, controversial affair at that. I mean, we're seeing all sorts of stuff get pulled out, and people are definitely going to have their opinions on it. And I think many would say, look, it's karma at the end of the day. They tried all this cheese, it didn't work out. OpTic won the tournament regardless, and they went 4-3 in the grand finals, banger best of 7 in the ends. I mean, look at the quality of the team play from OpTic as well. All very similar damage, all very similar KD, and they get the job done in 7. So yeah, what a start to the season. It pretty much had everything this weekend. We had some big upsets, we had OpTic taking the victory, we had some controversy in the grand final, some storylines emerging for the rest of the season. It's early days, but I think we're in for a good year, and OpTic right now are undisputedly the team to beat as it stands. Definitely Neptune was getting some comments in his replies. He's gone #AllGlassWin, so yeah, I think we can imagine where that team's going to end up in the next couple of days. So very much enjoyed your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.